Hey guys, Bree here from Blossom and Branch Farm, and today we are talking seeds. I just got a big haul of seeds from the All-American Selections Committee. This is a committee that every year looks at a bunch of different kind of new varietals and does tests on them and sees which ones perform the best. And so they've sent me a bunch of this year's winners and last year's winners and some previous winners. So I'm going to go through them all and talk about which ones I'm going to probably grow and which ones I'm not. Let's go. Okay, so we're going to start with the ornamentals. So the ornamentals that I've gotten, now most of these are not for cut flowers, although there are a couple that might work as cut flowers, so we're going to trial some of these. So the first one I'm going to start with is the one that I'm most excited for, and this is this Nasturtium. And this Nasturtium is called Tip Top Rose. It's this beautiful deep rose color. It has a lot more flowers, so it's more floriferous than other Nasturtiums, and which means it has more blooms and they don't fade as quickly as other Nasturtium blooms. And it's also just supposedly a healthier plant, but I think the color and the amount of flowers is a standout on this Nasturtium. And we grow a lot of Nasturtium as a trap crop and also just as a companion plant. So definitely gonna be using these, especially around the edges and borders of our raised beds. All right, the next one that they sent us is another good border plant. This is a Zinnia, and this is a Sakata seed. This is actually who provides a lot of our Lisianthus seeds as well. So this is a Zinnia called Profusion Red Yellow Bicolor, and it is a two-colored Zinnia, so it's red and yellow, and it actually fades to this kind of pretty salmon-y apricot-y color. Now this one is not one that we would use as a cut flower because to me it looks like it's a shorter bedding plant, so good for borders and edges, but a good interplant, so maybe good for co-planting with things like tomatoes to attract pollinators, because these zinnias are going to be shorter. They won't compete height-wise as much with the taller production plants. So I think the color on this one is definitely the standout. It's not a color that I really grow as a cut, and it's definitely not tall enough for cutting, but good bedding plant and companion plant Zinnia. Next one, this one actually would be good, I think, for cutting. This is a Snapdragon, and from a company called Hemgenetics in the Netherlands. And this was the 2023 winner. It is a Snapdragon called Doubleshot Orange, and supposedly it has stronger stems that are less likely to break. It has a double blossom, so it's kind of a ruffled looking bloom. It's a medium height, and it has supposedly more branching, which means more stems for flowers for us. So that's always a good thing. Also supposedly blooms well in a range of situations, so low light, heat, supposedly a full season bloomer, which would be great because a lot of the Snapdragons that we grow actually prefer spring, and then once the temperatures get warm, they fade out. So we'll test this one and see how it does. Now, it's not really a color that I like that much. It's very bright. I'm not into those bright oranges, but we'll give it a shot just to see how the variety itself does. And that, again, that variety is called Tall Doubleshot Orange Bicolor. Next one, I'm not going to grow this one, thank you for sending it, but this is Verbena bonariensis. This is actually invasive in a lot of the United States. This one I'm super excited about. This is a sunflower called Concert Bell, and it has multiple, this is a Japanese company, I can tell because this is all in Japanese, Tohoku seed. And this is a hybrid sunflower. It has 10 to 12 blooms per stem. So this is not uncommon for a branching sunflower. A lot of our branching sunflowers have multiple blooms. What's unique about this one is that all of those blooms are pretty tight into the head. So it looks really like one stem that you can cut and just have multiple blooms. So they market it as like you can cut one stem and you have a bouquet to put in a vase. That could be pretty cool. We're gonna give it a test. We'll see how it does, but looks interesting. Now, if you're looking for a good ornamental to grow in hanging baskets, you might want to look into this one. This is called the Viking Explorer Rose on green, and this is a begonia and is a really good spiller. So kind of a vibrant red flower with nice green foliage, and supposedly it's very heat tolerant, so that's always good for baskets because sometimes they can get hot and kind of dried out. And also supposedly a good bloomer, so nice for hanging baskets. I don't usually do a lot of hanging baskets, but I might put this one in some of my tall planters as a little bit of a spiller. All right, let's move on to edibles. All right, I'm gonna start with the peppers because they sent me quite a few peppers. So we have, I'm not a big pepper grower. Usually I just stick with shishitos because I have kids. and they don't like hot peppers. So I don't know that I'll be growing any of these hot peppers, but they are interesting looking if you like hot peppers. This one is called Quickfire, and this is the 2022 national winner. Strong, tiny, hot Thai chili pepper. So very hot, strong, you know, kind of quicker to mature because they're smaller, and supposedly really good for containers. So if you are a container gardener looking for a good pepper, this Quickfire is supposed to be a good one. This is a 2022 winner. Next up, we're gonna look at the Dragonfly pepper. This is a sweet pepper, like a bell pepper. Actually, if you leave this one on the plant long enough, it will turn red, but it starts green and it turns this really dark purple color. Now, purple bell peppers aren't uncommon. You can grow them, but this one has a thicker flesh. So sometimes the purple ones are a thin flesh. Also, it fruits up high, so high and away from the soil. So that's good if you have like nibbling pests and things that like to eat peppers. It's good that it sits up high in the plant. So 2022 winner, Quickfire sweet bell pepper. All right, my last pepper is this one called Buffy, and this is by a company called Known You Seed. So from Taiwan. This is a 2022 All-American Selections winner. It is a very attractive plant, so it almost has an ornamental pepper look. It's a hot pepper, and this one is supposed to be faster to mature than Tabasco. So if you like to make pepper sauce or Tabasco sauce, this one might be a good alternative, Buffy, because it ripens faster, faster to maturity than Tabasco. Also a pretty one. I am excited to grow these watermelon seeds. These are called Mini Love, and they are by Claws vegetable seeds. And these are small personal mini watermelons, and the benefit of that is that they're usually a little bit faster to mature. And these ones are particularly crack resistant. They're not seedless. So if you're looking for seedless watermelon, I think the Mini Love do have seeds in them, but there are up to 6 fruits per vine on this one, and the vines are pretty short, so good for smaller spaces. If you want a small space watermelon, this one only gets to about 3 or 4 feet long and produces up to 6 fruits on each vine, so that's pretty good for a small space watermelon. High sugar content and a good crisp juicy flesh, which is a must for me in my watermelons. This one is Mini Love. All right, speaking of squash and space, let's look at this one from one of my favorite companies, Johnny's. This is a 2023 winner, and this is a Kabocha squash, a hybrid Kabocha winter squash called Sweet Jade, and it is really supposed to have, and it is supposed to be good for having high yield Kabocha squash. I love Kabocha squash. If you haven't grown it before, you really should, because it's a really delicious flavor squash. Some of the squashes that we grow are pretty, but the taste isn't that good. Kabocha squash has a really good flavor, good for baking, roasting, puree, all of those things. So a good dry, sweet flesh. It's also a really good storage squash. So this is important for us because whenever we grow a lot of stuff, I want to know that I'm going to be able to store it and pull it out and eat it still in January and February. So even if I'm growing a lot of stuff and I can't eat it all, or my family can't eat it all when we're producing it, we can store it for later. So good storage Kabocha squash, and a nice healthy plant too. So let's give this one a try. I'm definitely gonna be growing this one. All right, let's look at the tomatoes. So I got 2 tomatoes. Now these are both 2022 winners. This one is Purple Zebra, and this is by a company called AP Whaley. High tolerance to cracking, disease resistant, firm, rich flavor. They're a very pretty color, so kind of a green and a red kind of zebra look, so probably where the name comes from. But excited to try this one. I'll probably just start with a couple. Whenever I'm trying a new tomato, I just like to start with a couple, because if you don't like it and you're growing a lot of it, then you end up with a lot of tomatoes you don't like. So we'll start with a couple of these. And then there's also this Sunset Torch. So we usually grow a lot of Sun Golds here. Sun Golds are one of my favorite tomatoes. That's usually the orange tomato that I choose to grow. But I will be giving this one a try. And this one, again, is Sunset Torch. And this is a 2022 winner. Vigorous early ripener, so supposedly ripened a little bit earlier than other varieties, less splitting, and high disease resistance. So if you have an area where your tomatoes tend to get blight or wilt, or just tend to have disease issues, you might look into a disease-resistant variety like this one, Sunset Torch. Also supposedly mildly sweet and fruity. Last seed eggplant, this cool eggplant. This eggplant is called Icicle, and it is by another one by No New Seed from Taiwan. This is a white cylindrical eggplant, which is a really interesting plant in the garden. And supposedly the skin doesn't yellow. So sometimes white eggplants, the skin will kind of yellow. Supposedly this one stays a nice white. It has a better taste and texture, so not quite as bitter and a little bit firmer texture. Holds up really well to insect damage, that's important. And it has a good yield with less seeds. So sometimes if you have a lot of seeds in your eggplant, it's not great for texture. This one supposedly has less seeds. All right, so let's go through the ones that I'm gonna be growing and which ones I will not be growing this year. Okay, so the ones I'm gonna be growing are the tomatoes. I'm gonna try just a couple, again, just to see how I like it the first year. Definitely be trying out these watermelons. My kids love mini watermelons, and even if they have seeds, it's still good for making things like margaritas and that kind of stuff. The Kabocha squash, definitely gonna grow those because I love Kabocha squash, and we're looking for more storage varieties, so we'll try that one. I'm gonna try the eggplant. I feel like my kids might eat this eggplant because it looks neat. Sometimes, you know, kids, they just eat things because they look cool. Definitely growing these nasturtiums. I will be doing these zinnias, but probably out front in our ornamental beds near the street, not in our production garden. I'm gonna try out these snapdragons. Again, they're not a color that I really grow much of or that I will probably use, but I'm gonna grow them because I wanna see if the variety is a good one. I'm gonna try out these sunflowers because they seem really cool. And the ones that I'm not gonna be growing are that Verbena bonariensis because invasive. I'm not going to be doing these peppers because the hot peppers, no one eats them in my family really, and the bell pepper, while it looks cool, maybe I'll do one of them. The bell peppers usually take a long time to mature in my climate, so probably will skip the bell pepper, but maybe I'll do a couple. All right guys, that was it. Let me know in the comments below if you were going to try one of these All American Selections varieties. I want to know which one, and I want to know which ones don't look great to you. All right, thanks guys. We'll see you next time in the garden or the greenhouse. See ya. One more ornamental that they sent. This is a variety called Viking Explorer. Now, if you're looking for a good basket growing, if you're looking for a good ornamental to grow in hanging baskets, you might want to look into this one. This is called the Viking Explorer Rose on green, and this is a begonia and is a really good spiller. So it's kind of a vibrant red flower with nice green foliage. Kind of a vibrant red flower with nice green foliage, and supposedly it's very heat tolerant, so that's always good for baskets because sometimes they can get hot and kind of dried out. And also supposedly a good bloomer, so nice for hanging baskets. I don't usually do a lot of hanging baskets, but I might put this one in some of my tall planters as a little bit of a spiller.